Okay.
You start.
Hello, everybody. My name is Charlie Hawkins. Along with John Duvall, we are part of a company called Ultra Confusion. Ultra Confusion is an independent video game news and review website. We exclusively review independently developed games. We are here today to discuss the destruction of the game industry as we know it. Now, first of all, the first question is it going away? No. That's why we have that as we know it. Things are changing. First of all, let's see here. I think we have a pretty diverse crowd, so I think we can go back to the original Nintendo, right? We're okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, awesome.
Who here played the original Nintendo?
Oh yeah. Yes, let's
Pretty good group, all right.
How about the original Sega?
The old dates.
Yeah.
Well, Genesis, not Master System.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Atari.
Yeah, Atari.
I go as far as the 64. I do apologize.
There was a guy that we were talking to today who went all the way back to the Odyssey. So
Nice.
that is ancient. Okay, so what has changed from the Nintendo era to now? First of all, there's this wonderful thing called we can patch it later.
Oh, I hate that. I have to wait for a patch. Usually, what happens to the part where you just pop in the disc, load up the game, and play? What happened to that?
Come on in. Absolutely right. What the unfortunate thing is because finances suck and games cost a lot more. So what's happening is you're seeing a shift towards let's get the product out as best as we can, out as soon as possible. Hopefully, no one will notice. Assassin's Creed Unity. I think a lot of people noticed that game should not have been released when it was released. But the problem is the publishers give hard deadlines. They will not fudge, even on established series like Assassin's Creed. And then you have Unity, which you have like eyeballs and noses with no faces. You've got parts of the game where you have to do stealth, where you're standing on top of a ledge and you have to look down to see the pattern of the guards, and all you can see is the tip of your boots, and the camera will not move from there. The unfortunate thing is that as we move on, the word console, you can strike that from the record. There's no such thing as consoles anymore. The old consoles, yes, but now it's not. There's no such thing as a console anymore. PlayStation 4, Xbox One. Those are multimedia devices that also play video games, which is ironic. That's the exact slogan that they used to sell the PlayStation 3 in Australia. So maybe they knew something we didn't at the time. So what does this mean for video games? One, it means that the games that are being released and produced are going to be playing it safe. You're going to see the next Call of Duty 37. You're going to see the staples, the Maddens, which I have a huge issue, and I'm going on a small tangent real quick about Madden. Here's the beautiful thing about Madden. Every single year you have to pay $60 for the exact same game with just a roster update. But if you talk to EA, and this is why EA won't talk to me, they will say, no, it's a brand new game, it's got brand new features. So here is my revised understanding of how they make a new Madden every single year. They have an enormous dartboard. Let's say it's the length of this entire wall. And on this dartboard is a bunch of features. Running backs or whatever the football stuff is. They have two darts. They have the enhancement dart and the slightly broken dart. They throw the enhancement dart. Oh, awesome. Quarterback passing. All right, we're going to make a tweak to that. And the slightly broken dart. Oh, field goal kicking. Yeah, that's going to be broken. Next year, it will flip. That's the only logical reason I could see for it being that way. What is amazing right now is that there is a lot of games out there that have continued to be innovative, to be different, to be unique, something that people should know about. The unfortunate thing is they're independently developed. They don't have the budget, but they have the freedom, which in vice versa, the AAA titles, they have the budget, they don't have the freedom, with a couple, small little exceptions. I mean, Blizzard can basically do whatever they want to. Any company that could sign Will Wright, if you don't know who Will Wright is, just put something in the title, and that's Will Wright. If he says he wants to make a game about I don't know. I'm trying to keep it PG here. Because my usual thing is, he could walk into a room and if someone were to take a dump in a bucket and he says, I want to make a game about that, companies would be like, here you go.
Is this generation Sid Meier?
Yeah, right. Sid Meier is
Who
another
still
great
makes
example.
games.
Well, actually, Will Wright has basically said he's done with games. He's doing a think tank now. I'm not exactly sure what they're thinking about, but they're a think tank. But like I said, there are these amazing games, independently developed games that don't have the amount of love they deserve. And what we do is we try to give you, for us personally, what we're trying to do is give you some information about those games. Now, the unfortunate thing and beautiful thing is right now there are a huge amount of platforms for those games to come out on. Probably not the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. The real reason behind the Xbox One is they're still trying to get dev kits out to those people who originally, when the system was released back in 2013, they're still waiting on their dev kit. Though there is a rumor that they're actually going to change something within the Xbox One that will make the console the dev kit as well, which would be awesome for those independent developers. Oh, I gotta check my notes here real quick. Now let's go into the true destruction, and that of course is the bugginess and also the corners cut that you're seeing. You're seeing DLC heaven,
yeah,
where they give you a very small itty-bitty little piece of the game, and then they're going to make you pay for the real pieces of
Evolve.
it. Yes, evolve. Another thing is, how many people like to play single-player games? That's going to be a thing of the past.
Yeah, I know.
The unfortunate thing is, the easiest thing to sell and the thing that has the most replayability and is the cheapest thing to make is a multiplayer game.
What are you saying, from the AAA titles though, or indie?
No,
or
I'm talking AAA titles. AAA titles, you're going to see the single player go away. If it's going to stick around, it's going to be your tutorial, so you learn how to play the game and all the little nuances, like they decide to change the button for cover or something, if they're stupid. That's one of my pet peeves. If the key binding works, don't change it. For the love of God. Put in the inventory as numerical button 8. Why? Or mess with, WASD. Why? Why would you move the direction keys? But anyways, back on topic. One of the things that had finally been swapped down was on-disc DLC. Which is a bad thing, but of course was extra money for the companies.
That wasn't a very long-lived thing, though.
It was.
It seems like pretty short-lived, though. You know, it's a big deal with like Mass Effect. It was kind of the first one. It was a really big deal.
Or
With the,
game
DLC.
launch day DLC.
yeah.
Now that I understand, because in development cycle, for the last like 2 or 3 months, you're not actually touching the game. You are just making sure that the printing of the game works. But there are still companies that when they print the discs out, don't work. One of the games that, well, actually this game had a lot of problems, but there was a game called Elemental. It was a terrible game. It's supposed to be the spiritual successor to a game called Masters of Magic, an amazing PC game.
Yeah, I liked that. That was a good game.
I love that game. But anyways, man, I'm like bouncing all over the place. I'm sorry. And I haven't even started drinking my energy drink.
I didn't say it.
I don't know where it went. Anyways,
Or you didn't already drink it?
no, I didn't drink it. I'm pretty sure, unless I like started absorbing, because there was an empty can, or empty can. Maybe it was empty. I don't know. Single player things are gonna die. The amazing thing is,
A lot of it's a hybrid, though. Like take Diablo 3,
okay,
which, Diablo 3...
online only.
Technically.
Exactly.
What?
It seems like,
Technically online only, but it's a single
it seems
player
like
game.
that's what we're seeing a lot more of. They might still have the... It's geared towards multiplayer, but you still have that single player option.
Okay, Final Fantasy.
Yes, sir.
Your Oblivion and Skyrim, surely those aren't going away.
Because they're established franchises,
Yes.
they're not going away. But Square Enix says they're taking a break from Final Fantasy, Elder Scrolls has attempted to try to jump into Elder Scrolls Online, which in my opinion was a terrible game.
Well, Square Enix's big money thing, right, is Final Fantasy 14.
That's where they're going to put their focus.
That's where they're making their money, is the online Final Fantasy 14. That's what's keeping Square Enix afloat right now, is really
Here
their
it is.
MMO.
Well, I mean, they've got 3 single-player Final Fantasies either right now coming out or in production coming out next year.
Right. And the thing is, you're right. They're not, single player's not completely going away, but don't expect more new entries. And then those games that had a heavier single player aspect, would have introduced a multiplayer aspect, expect that ratio to change. Like there are single player games out there for the PlayStation 3, the Tomb Raider game, Uncharted. No, Heavy Rain is a single player game.
Assassin's Creed, obviously.
But they now have a multiplayer aspect to it.
Right.
They're adding it into it, even if it doesn't make sense. Like the Uncharted multiplayer, I have no idea why you would do it.
Mass Effect's multiplayer.
Oh yeah, that's right. Mass Effect has multiplayer.
In the Last of Us multiplayer. What the heck?
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't that bad.
Well, it's annoying though, because like in Disc 3, like if you don't do it, you can't really fully complete the single player campaign with 100% success if you don't actually play the multiplayer.
Well, if you imported your game from 1 to 2 to 3, I ended up with way more. I didn't even need to touch the multiplayer. I ended up with way more than I needed.
Yeah.
Correct, but like your map thing with like your war
Yeah.
prepperness, you can never get to 100%
Yeah, that's true.
if you don't play it online. And that's part of that element that they
That
want
took
you to do.
one day to get that completely 100%, and I'm like, okay, let's play through the ending again, see if anything changed. Nothing changed. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different, the ending of Mass Effect 3.
Which ending?
That's a different problem.
First edition or second edition?
First, look, to be honest with you, I had no problem with it. I knew it had to end just a certain set of ways, but you know, to have a completely personalized ending, that is damn near impossible. You're not gonna please everyone.
People would find a problem with it anyway.
Exactly. So, what are companies doing to try to give you some innovativeness? Well, one of the dirty things that they're doing now is they're doing free-to-play.
Microtransactions.
Yeah.
On everything.
Free to play, pay to win.
Exactly. Free-to-pay, play to win. And the unfortunate thing is those games are the ones that are getting the spotlight because they've got. I just blinked on the girl's name.
You're thinking of Game of Fire or Game of War.
Yeah.
War of Fire.
Which is one of the worst games I've ever
Kate
played in my
Upton.
life.
Kate Upton in her Athena
Yeah,
outfit.
you know.
Yeah. With her endowments bouncing on horseback. There are so many better games out there. And there is a better way to do there's a better way to do microtransactions. It is possible to have microtransactions where it isn't simply pay to win. The unfortunate thing is
League of Legends.
League of Legends.
Games where it's a lot more cosmetic, like League,
Yeah,
a lot of MOBAs
exactly.
do it well, where you pay money and you either unlock characters or you get skins.
Yeah.
Or a lot of that stuff you can unlock through constant playing. Or a lot of subscription-based MMOs like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, same thing. You're mostly unlocking mounts or skins. But then you start getting free-to-play MMOs. And that's where you start getting back into the whole play-to-win thing. Like I played Dungeons & Dragons Online, which is free-to-play, but because it's free-to-play, their business model is obviously microtransactions. So now all of a sudden you can buy the Uber Sword plus 14. Whereas you can't really do that
Why
in your...
should you grind for that when it's
Yeah, exactly.
for sale?
Right, those type of games where they're like, if you pay money, we'll actually let you play the real game instead of spending the 30 hours to actually get to where the game actually gets fun. I'm sorry. Let me drink some water. It'll work. So the funny thing is, Apple has finally paid attention to this pay-to-win, free-to-play stuff, and they've introduced, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but they've introduced a section called Pay Once and Play, where you literally, it's a game with no hidden fees or anything. You pay for the game, you get the whole game.
That's nice.
I know it's a crazy concept, but let's be honest.
It's very deceptive to know what you're getting into with an iOS game.
Because there's even
You never know.
there's even games where you pay a price and then to really play the game, you pay the additional. You know, it's like, oh, it's 99 cents to play the game, yay! And then you play like 3 levels. It's like, oh, by the way, it's really $9.99. But since you already paid this, we'll still make you charge. We'll still charge you $9.99. I mean, there's games out there that get it right. There's games out there that get it wrong. There's games that you spend, 20, 30 hours, which is insane for like a mobile game. But there's games out there that you spend a lot of time, and then they introduce a couple little microtransactions. Actually, they've been there the entire time. Actually, you know what? My issue with microtransactions is that they slap you upside the face immediately upon loading and go, by the way, you got to really play the game, you got to pay. And then, like every 3 minutes, they're reminding you that you need to pay to play. There's games out there that have microtransactions that, yes, they add a competitive advantage. But it's kind of like, it's there if you want it, but we're not really going to try to shove it down your throat. The unfortunate thing is there are a lot of indie game developers out there who follow the pay to win because they figure that they can make a quick buck before anyone wises up.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because then there's other games that may be closely related to that type of game, and then they get, the black eye because there was a game that tried to pull the wool over everyone's eye. Now, things are changing. Like I said, there's a ton of platforms out there. You have, of course, the usual. You got the Nintendo ones, which are the DS, the 3DS. Does it still make games for the DS?
No,
I
I
can-
don't think so.
I think DS is forward compatible to the 3DS.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I couldn't remember because I know a lot of people are like, I'm not getting a 3DS because it's a gimmick. I know they're coming out with a new. Well, Nintendo's rumored to be coming out with a new console, which is interesting to me, but whatever. But you got your Wii U, your 3DS, your PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. Yes, they still make games for that because some of the developers are still like, I still don't see why we're paying extra for the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. Because if you notice, and this is another change, if you look at the catalog of games from when the Xbox or the PlayStation 2 launched to 2 years in advance, there's a ton of games. And then the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, there's still a good library, but it's a small library. Now you look at the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't pay attention every single day to all the games coming out, but I can't really think of more than like 10 games for the Xbox One. And it's been out for almost 2 years now.
I felt the same way about the PS2 when it was new. All the games I was playing were my PS1 games because they only had 6 or 7 titles for the PS2 for the first year. It takes time.
It does.
Yeah, look at the PlayStation 3's library. I think it took until 2011.
Oh, when it wasn't compatible. Made me so
Okay,
mad.
so I'm going to go on a Sony rant, and I apologize for anyone who's a Sony
I'm a
fanboy.
Sony fanboy.
But here's the deal. PlayStation 2, they had it freaking right.
Right.
They did an amazing job.
Let me-
Holy crap. And then comes the PlayStation 3. PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 were supposed to come out at the around the exact same time. But at the last minute, the PlayStation 3, with their Batarang controller, decided to redesign the entire controller. Oh, and by the way, they decided that DualShock was a last generation feature. That worked out well for them. But so they had to redesign. They released almost a year later, which gave Microsoft free reign for almost an entire year, which is basically, it's suicide for game manufacturers. And they also lost a lot of the titles that were supposed to be launch titles because they're like, well, we can't wait that long for a money return on our, our game. The beauty about being one of the launch titles is that you're going to be one of the very few games for a brand new console, and people are going to pick it up, even if it is absolute crap.
Because the only thing you can play.
Exactly. That's why. Well, that's one of the reasons why Wii got such a black eye, is because all these people are like, oh, Wii is innovative, everyone likes the Wii, it's in high demand, let's make a bunch of carnival mini games that are terrible, that you really don't have to go like this.
I only ever had 2 games on my Wii, and that was Smash Bros. Brawl and Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. I only played it for those 2 games, never played it for anything else. It just sort of sat there and died one day.
It's the only console my parents could ever play.
Right, I mean, yeah, it was like the games
They didn't
that
have to
came
use-
with the console were like the best thing.
Yeah.
Wii bowling, man, it's Wii bowling all the time. Anyways, PlayStation 3, they shot themselves in the foot because they decided at the last minute to redesign their controller, and then, oh, by the way, they decided that, you know, feedback, the DualShock was the last generation feature, so they didn't have that until a year or 2 into the PlayStation 3's lifespan. Around the same time, they also released the PlayStation Portable, the PSP. Interesting, cool, different. They went with the UMD format that no one else went with. So that made for a very interesting experience. Then they went with the PSP Go.
PSP is a very good hackable device.
That's all it's good for.
That's all it's good for. Got yourself a nice, good 16 gigabyte memory card. You can have many emulators and many things.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great
really
emulator
fun.
device. That's not what it's supposed to be.
Especially they marketed it as, right?
They come out, okay, so you got the PlayStation 3. First, when the PlayStation 3 finally came out, it had backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
Hardware backwards compatibility.
For like a
I
week.
love that.
Still have it.
I still have the was it the 60, no, the 40 gig, the 60 or the 40 gig, which has the hardware in there, so I can still play my games.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Sony and Microsoft, no backwards compatibility. Like you were saying, when the new console came out, you really didn't have much to play for a while because
Right.
you had to build up the library. One of the beauties of backwards compatibility is that you could just shift those games onto
Yeah.
the new console.
Play it on my new console.
Exactly.
It
Make
doesn't
it
make
useful.
that crazy grindy noise.
Yeah. But of course, at some point, not only did PlayStation decide to do away with the emulation, or excuse me, the hardware emulation, but they also decided to go away with the other OS, which they had a humongous problem because the United States Air Force had been buying PlayStation 3s in bulk and using them as a server farm to help them analyze tactical data.
That's awesome.
That went over well. So you have that as well, and then of course, okay, now back to the PSP Go. PSP Go was a digital-only PSP. It was a little bit smaller. You had to download everything. There was no UMD slot. They later came out with a UMD attachment. Actually, I think it was a third-party UMD attachment, but the PSP Go didn't last very long. Then they came out with the PS Vita, where there was a touchpad on the back of the unit, so all the touching was back here, where you didn't really know where you were touching, but you're going to touch it. Do you have a PS Vita? Awesome.
Really?
You're like
You're
three
one of
people
7
at
people, I know.
I didn't carry mine with me.
I thought it was an urban legend.
Ah!
Now it really is.
Not anymore.
Now they're extinct.
There it is. Okay, so here's the PS Vita,
Okay.
and here's the touchpads right back here.
I like touching the backpad though. It's pretty cool. I was playing some Project Diva on it, and it's like I had a choice to use the sticks, the front screen, or the
Mhm.
back.
Mm-hmm.
I did the touchscreen first, which I'm very accustomed to. And then I did the sticks. I don't want to destroy my sticks, so I went to the back.
Yep.
It was like trying to hit the star buttons with your back fingers.
Uh-huh.
I don't-
Yeah, I know, because you're used on a handheld. You're used to using your thumbs. Now all of a sudden you have to incorporate.
It's a very gorgeous
The
system.
fingers that have never been used
Yeah,
for
it's like-
anything
Yes.
else.
Unless you had an N64.
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, yeah.
Those
That was a very
controllers were
unique
awesome, man.
controller.
Yeah.
The Z
I love the
controller we
tricks.
snap
Yeah.
off.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
But anyways, so the PS Vita, they were, they're saying, oh yeah, you can play, you'll be able to play your PlayStation 4s on your, all your PlayStation
Is this-
4 library onto your PS
It's
Vita.
just a PlayStation 4 extension. That's what Sony actually called it now.
Now they're starting to remove that because not enough people are buying Vitas. Because no one sees, I'm sorry, but no one really sees the point to get the Vita.
Well,
the
not
thing,
in the States at least, but Japan's getting a bunch of games.
yeah, here's the fun thing. Japan gets a ton more stuff to the Sony PlayStation. Like the was it PlayStation TV? Though I think it's finally coming over here.
Hey, it's already here.
Okay.
Mhm.
Last time I checked, it was still in process because I know a lot of cable companies are like, no, 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 no. By the way, I work for a telecommunications company, so I get to hear all about their wonderful pleas of excitement for stuff like the PlayStation TV, which is basically just a tuner added to your PlayStation 4. Then, of course, you have the PlayStation 4. I'm sorry, I just have no faith in Sony anymore. Well, actually, I'd bring that back. One of the huge things that caused me to lose absolute faith in Sony was that all my information was part of the hack that knocked down the PlayStation Network, and all my information got stolen. And my information was used to systematically buy purchases at Target until American Express goes, by the way, why every 5 minutes are you buying something a little bit more expensive?
Wow.
So, and then of course Sony Pictures got nailed. Here's a fun thing. When you're dealing with personal information, I would hope that you'd have the most high-tech security to protect it. Sony decided 5-year-old technology was going to be okay. In a world of technology where the very next day what you have is out of date, that's insane. So
Not a Sony fan.
no.
That's
But the reality of it is, I would not be surprised if, and they're already making moves to do this. Sony is going to go do away with first-party titles.
because they sold off SOE.
Yeah, they sold off SOE, Sony Online Entertainment. Yep, it's now Daybreak Studio.
They sold off about a month ago.
They decided that it was
It's like suicide.
They decided that it was just not fiscally responsible for them to continue to have their own first-party studio. So what that says is they don't even have faith in their own console. But they're more than willing for all the third-party developers to continue making games for them because they get cut of the profit. The way that the profit share works is you get, if you're a developer, depending on your platform, the vast majority, the industry standard is 70% of the profit goes to you, 30% goes to the platform. So Sony's going to continue to make money off of every single video game purchase because they had to give a license for that developer. Now, of course, if you want to go in the really nitty-gritty stuff, if you are a AAA title, actually, let's say you're a small studio and you have EA publishing your game. Let's go strictly digital because then it gets really crazy if it's GameStop and all that stuff because there's all that markup.
Yeah.
But let's say that it's a digital title. Excuse me. 30% goes to PlayStation. That 70% then goes to the publisher. The publisher then holds on to 80% of that 70%. 20% goes to the developer, which is a itty-bitty little piece.
80%?
Yes, sir.
Jesus.
Yes, sir. So I know everyone loves used games, but to a developer that's working, a small developer that's working with a publisher, you killed them. They're never going to be able to make another game, especially if it's a popular one, because unless there's a royalty clause in their contract, they're not going to see any money because chances are it's going to be resold and resold and resold and resold and resold, which is why you're seeing a push towards the digital. Why everything is trying to go digital, way behind the PC. Actually, the PC is a great, I guess that's like the beacon of light now, because the PC has now fully taken over the consoles. No offense, but that's what's happened.
PC Master Race.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, with the console, there's a plus and a minus to a console. For the console, you know what you've got. The unfortunate thing is, like I said with technology, what is awesome today is last week's news tomorrow.
That's part of the problem with consoles is you look at the PS2, the PS4, and generations of consoles. And in order to get that hardware and consoles for the money you're paying for a console, you're going to pay more for a PC. You look even up to the Xbox 360 and the PS3, you're getting great hardware for the money as compared to a PC. Now
the
you
Xbox One and
now look at the
PlayStation 4.
Xbox One and the 360.
The PlayStation 4.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you look at their hardware architecture, especially with their graphics processor, they're already last-gen hardware.
Yeah.
I mean, you go out, you can build a PC for $500 that already destroys the crap out of the consoles. So for someone like me who's a PC gamer, I'm like, I don't see any purpose for me to buy a console anymore because I'm already getting better hardware for probably the same price, really, if I wanted to, if you can build your own PC at least. The only problem you run into is then you run into, which you probably get to, is, you know, you have Windows 7, Windows 8, XP people still use, and then you got Mac and Linux. You have who knows how many varieties.
You run into a compatibility issue. I mean, you know, your hardware doesn't match up correctly.
Yeah.
I've had like a top-of-the-line NVIDIA card, and then have the game suck for me because I was running on NVIDIA instead of
AMD.
AMD. I was going to say that. Yeah, you got that right. But if on a console, you know what you got because it's the box. So they're pushing for a more digital thing to get rid of used game sales. Yes, I know that at the all right, here's another thing about Sony that I don't like. I'm sorry. I was a fanboy of PlayStation 2. I swear to God I was. Then, like, bad things happen. But the other thing,
Ran over your dog.
remember when the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One were about to come out, and they were saying no used games. We're going to lock it down.
Actually, PS4 had used games in the commercial.
No, they didn't.
They did?
No, okay, so here's the fun little thing. So there was this huge list of this is how we're going to do it. We're going to, we're going to be, hard asses, but we want to make sure that everyone gets the original game. None of this, bullshit about used games, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So Microsoft went first. And everyone's booing and hissing and saying, oh my God, it's the stupidest thing ever. Sony goes, and strike that one, and strike that one, and strike that one, and strike that one. Okay.
I don't blame them.
And so that was the amazing thing for Sony was that Sony went second. And Sony's like, okay, we'll allow used games. We won't do this. We won't do that. You don't have to have online only. But let's be honest, the vast majority of the games have kind of snuck with the online only.
Yeah, the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 are probably the last generation of consoles that
Well, I
you
mean-
need online for.
Look at the Ouya, which we've been playing. Is if you have the Ouya, does anybody know what the Ouya is?
Yeah, actually, people over here were playing the Ouya. We were walking by. I was like,
Yeah, that
So
was
basically, it's a console that was basically Kickstarter a couple of years ago. But as far as the online only goes, is you buy your game, right? And you always have usually a demo or trial. If you lose internet connectivity, guess
a
what?
lot of games go straight into demo mode when it can't do the verification check. Now, one of the things that so what you're seeing is all of those strikes that Sony did and Microsoft backed off of, they're starting to add them back,
Yeah,
slowly but surely.
Putting them back
Now,
in there.
now, one of the big pushes, of course, is digital. Then you don't have to worry about used games. And I don't know if Sony will actually do this with their disc copies, but the rumor was, before they went to E3 and before they went second, was that they would, if you have your disc would be locked into your console. Once you've put it in, it's yours. If you, let's say I've got an amazing game I want him to check out. If he puts it in his PlayStation 4, demo mode, like that. There's also a feature that would allow you to pay a price to unlock the full game. Now here's the fun thing. Let's say that he does pay the discount. It's not going to really be discounted. They're going to charge you an arm and a leg. But if he were to pay that, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, I want that game back, I would have to pay that because it would re-register with his device. That's something that Sony, I don't know if they're still going to do it, but that's what they were going to do. I know that there was, I don't know if they're going to implement it still or not. Microsoft and Sony were going to do an ability to play games offline that require, that need to be online. And they give you, if you're on your home account, I think you can play up to a week without internet. If you're on a buddy's account, you can play, I think it's like 48 hours, and then the game locks down. I don't know if they're still going to do it. I hope not. But then again, you never know.
Well, they kind of already do that with online games, where I think one of the Mass Effects actually, I could borrow a disc from Charlie
Yep.
and play it on my Xbox 360, but in order to access the online content, I would have had to buy that for myself again. So
that's a standard on all EA stuff.
Yeah.
If you lend out a disc to someone, it'll pay, hey, this isn't your thing. Ubisoft does a similar thing with Uplay. It's like, whoa, you can't go online, you can't access the multiplayer until you pay us.
So that's kind of their way of getting you to pay again. So
Yeah.
you can play the single player, but you still have to pay for the online.
Yeah, you still have to
part.
pay for the online.
Okay, so it's
EA
just like the codes that Blizzard gives,
Yeah.
so that you can get on Battle.net. You can play through the campaign, but to get online, you gotta have.
Just not
the
for
code.
Diablo 3.
Right.
Yeah, not for Diablo 3, which is a whole other thing, but
Actually,
Well,
there
they
is.
came out with the expansion, which actually solved a lot of the issues.
it did.
And once they got rid of the
I
real money
give them
market
a lot of
house.
credit for that.
How about the latest SimCity?
I
SimCity
haven't
3000?
tried it.
No, it's SimCity. Was it 3,000 or was it 4? What was the last one? 4? I think it was 4.
Pretty sure it's for you. Yeah.
Required an always online connection for it's absolute 100% single player game. But here,
Yeah.
but no. But here's the best part. They tied your account to a server, a specific server. So let's say there's 8 servers. You log in, magically it works because they had all kinds of connectivity issues. Magically it works, you log into server 4. You spend 4, 5, 6 hours. You create this amazing city. You accidentally get booted off, maybe you have to leave, you come back the next day, server 4 is down, so you're on server 2. Guess what?
Start from
No
scratch.
city.
You also forget your neighbors. It doesn't matter if you want them to. Your neighbors affect your city and SimCity 4.
Oh.
So like if you have a neighbor next to you that's really polluted, it's going to fly over and affect your city, even if you don't want to because you want to play single player. Now they have gone back and created an offline mode because there's so much pushback. I remember, I think it was like Reddit and Dig flooded Amazon with 0 stars. And so for like a month,
Yeah.
SimCity 4 had a half-star rating on Amazon. Because the internet, there was a great uproar
Yeah.
over SimCity.
It serves them right, honestly.
Yeah.
But what else choice do gamers have? I mean, how else are going to be like, I hate this game? Because people still bought the game in troves. I mean, it's still sold. I don't know how it's doing well now, but it's one way to let the publisher know your game was crap.
Final Fantasy 14 was the one game I've ever heard about that did it right.
Well, funny thing, okay, so I played Final Fantasy 14 a lot.
No, you played Final Fantasy 14 Reborn.
A Realm
Yeah,
Reborn, you're
Reborn,
right. So
exactly.
yeah, Final Fantasy 14 1.0, you're right, which came out and was an abomination from everything I heard.
Yeah, and they scrapped it.
Yeah.
They said,
They
we're
relaunched,
very
yeah.
sorry. The guy who was in charge of it's fired.
Yep.
We're starting from scratch.
And then they relaunched. It's still the same world. It's still Azora. It's still the
Yeah.
same concept. It's just
They changed
totally
a couple
overhauled
small things.
Yeah.
everything. And so they redid it. It's a great MMO now. I played it for a number of months. I love it.
I've heard great things.
It was the first one. I never played it. The one thing I heard about the original version, which was awesome, was the graphics engine was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like in terms of like what you can see as far as like distance and the beauty of the scenery. They had to scale that back in A Realm Reborn. But apparently the first one was absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, I never played the first one.
To go off, actually, to add one more thing to the conversation here. One of the other things that EA is notorious for is they go on a 2-year cycle. This is mainly for sports games, but they have been known to do this to other games, and that is in order to force you to buy the newest and latest and greatest, they turn off the online support or the online servers. So let's say that you play, I don't know, I'm just going to go with Madden, because I love Madden so much.
Must be made by Sony too.
Okay, I think we're on Madden 15. So Madden 12 is gone. You can't play it anymore. But, I mean,
Can you
There's-
still play it single player though? Could I load up Madden
Single
2010?
player.
yes, but the thing is that with games like that, even though there's a single player, the vast majority of the time they're playing online. And because games are becoming more and more online, that is spooky as heck.
Yeah.
You know, because you're running into the territory which has been brought up so many times in the game Second Life. Is when I purchased this, like in Second Life, it's property, land. When I purchase it, is that mine, or is it only mine until you decide to shut down the server? And do I get some kind of compensation when you take it away from me? And that, they still haven't solved.
There was something in the news last year about them finally taking Star Fox offline. And that had been around for what, 20 years?
Close to it, yeah.
Going on.
Yeah.
I didn't know they existed. Star Fox Online, is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah,
What console, what was that on? I don't remember that one.
I want to say it was on the Genesis.
I remember playing it, never online now.
It was one of the Sega consoles.
So anyways, we have 15 minutes left. We would love for y'all to continue to add to the conversation or ask us any questions about where we see the future of gaming or whatnot. All I can say is be nice to your independent developers because they can make amazing games. They can make the next big thing, and it will only happen through y'all helping them out.
Okay, the publisher fee
Yes, sir.
sounded absurd. Is there no way to get around that, like with Kickstarter or something?
Okay, Kickstarter. Kickstarter is phenomenal, but it has one humongous pitfall, and that is in the stretch goals. The reason why I say that is the best example is Double Fine Adventures. Double Fine Adventures had a starting price of, or their goal was $400,000, which is astronomical in itself, but they surpassed that. They actually surpassed it and went to $3.5 million. You're thinking, oh man, this could be a solid game. The problem was they were so intent on keeping the money rolling in that they started throwing in stretch goals that they hadn't planned for. And so as an end result, they went through all $3.5 million and they weren't even able to give you a beta. They had just passed the alpha stage. And when they finally decided to kind of bring everything back together, the game, which was called Double Fine Adventures, now called Broken Age, is now episodic. And if you kickstarted it, you get all the episodes for free, or excuse me, not for free, but for basically your pledge.
Right.
And everyone else is having to pay.
Okay.
Which brings another interesting thing which I loathe, and that is called early access. Early access through Steam is basically you get to play the game early on, you pay the fee, and you can help try to make the game as best as possible.
Let you be a beta tester?
You
You're
paying
paid to be a beta
Okay.
tester. The only problem is there's no guarantee that that game will ever make it to the end, and you're not going to get reimbursed for it.
Oh, okay.
That money, see, early access basically means we ran out of money and we really need extra money. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow you to play the game in its whatever form it is. And hopefully enough of you and your friends are going to join so we can actually make the game.
So like Diablo 3?
But Diablo 3 is a little bit, yeah. But basically, yeah. Kickstarter is a phenomenal way to get around the publisher fee.
Okay.
But but the thing is, with the beauty of having a publisher is they've got the money, and you'll have a contract. They'll say, we'll give you this amount, and you don't have to go look for it. Now, of course, if you go over budget, then that's when you're going to have to look for it. But they would probably frown upon you utilizing Kickstarter, because then you're giving their product away for a different price.
Right.
But of course, going the Kickstarter route, it is awesome to actually be able to raise that money. And a lot of people.
So the publisher takes on the risk, though.
Yes, absolutely. But like I said, the Kickstarter, it's a great idea. But now, if you're going to do Kickstarter, you have to have past an alpha, almost a beta, if you're going to really gain a lot of support. Unless, of course, you have a huge name like Ron Gilbert or Tim Schafer or Will Wright if he ever went back to games.
So you could do a Kickstarter, but you probably need to have a demo before you even get to that stage.
You can no longer, unless you're extremely lucky, you can no longer just show them concept art.
Okay.
A great example of Kickstarter done right is a game called Elysian Shadows. It's still in development.
I've been following that for a while.
Those guys are nuts, but they are awesome. They were able to fund the Kickstarter project. They've also done I think they're on Greenlight now. Their little spin is that not only are they going to give you a PC game, and there's also going to be on the Ouya, but it's also going to the Dreamcast. Which is so here's a funny thing. I know a lot of people are like, man, the Dreamcast is dead. Actually, the Dreamcast is dead in the U.S. There's actually a huge development movement in Brazil, where there's Brazilian companies that have been making games for the Dreamcast basically since the Dreamcast disappeared.
Those things are tough. I mean, I took one to Iraq, came back full of sand, still works fine. So it works.
Yeah.
They're good.
But they did it right. They understood. First of all, through their Kickstarter, or I guess as part of their Kickstarter, they quit their jobs. So another thing that you have to take into consideration when looking at Kickstarter is how much time are they going to be spending? Is this a side project where they're going to spend like 2-3 hours a week? Or are we talking like the Elysian Shadow crew that does 23 hours in the day?
So when am I going to get a game for my pledge?
Yeah. I unfortunately am a terrible person for Kickstarter. Well, actually, I'm a very, very good person for Kickstarter because I Kickstart way too much. I was part of the Double Fine Adventure Kickstarter. I also did Massive Chalice, which is their second game, which I don't know why I did that after knowing what was going to happen. You got to do your research. You got to do your homework before Kickstarter. It's not as easy as it was. Then again, you got the potato salad guy, so
Yeah.
you know sometimes you get lucky. Questions, thoughts, concerns, criticisms? Yes, sir, in the back.
Now, I don't mean to jump on a bandwagon
Yep.
here, but I think a lot of the mainstream game industry's problem is that they invest too much in like graphical improvements.
Yes.
Not enough of the
'Cause,
story.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the thing is, they're coming in at it with the mindset of it ain't broke, don't fix it. We'll just make it prettier.
Sorry.
I mean, I know it's absolutely broke. I mean, you look at Call of Duty. I mean, it's literally the same game, but they switched out a couple maps, and they're going to charge you $60 for that slight change. But to really play the game, if you want the really cool guns, then pay like the $2.99. Yeah, the season pass stamp. Yeah, that's another tactic that they're using is the season pass, where they'll release DLC whenever they want to, and hopefully they give you a lot so that it actually makes it worth your while.
Yeah, you're basically spending. You see, you gotta pay $60 to buy the game initially. Then you can get the season pass for $30. So you're basically almost $100 just for a game.
That you may
just play for just a year. It's like
Yeah.
the new Call of Duty is supposed to be announced in November.
right, but that's the other thing with those type of games. Even with the season pass, they're still trying to pump one out every single year. And oh, by the way, Assassin's Creed. Can we just call it Assassin's Duty, because literally it is
Another
like this
game
close
coming
to
out.
Call of Duty now.
There's another game coming out this year.
Like on the PC, that's why I never buy new games on the PC anymore.
Do you pirate?
No, I'm not a pirate.
He waits for like the heavily discounted bargain.
Like take like
Oh, yeah.
Borderlands for instance. Like I love Borderlands.
Borderlands.
Wait till
But,
you
like-
get it on Steam.
Yeah, but like the first Borderlands, like okay, this is awesome, and then 6 months later, it came out the DLC. So I booted up, I'm like, I don't remember what I was doing.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
So now what I do
Very
is
nice.
I wait, you know.
Borderlands did DLC really well though.
It did.
Right, but when you look at when you're doing that type of deal, this is my also my issue with episodic games, is that you have to have a pretty good release schedule. Otherwise, you're going to continuously lose huge chunks of your audience, because you're going to, like, if you got Borderlands day one, and then you floor it through there, and then 6 months later the DLC comes out, I'm already 4 games past Borderlands. Unless something like mind-blowing happens, I'm not coming back.
Like every game has DLC now. So I know it's going to come out, so like, I'm just going to wait a year or two and buy it the Super Gold Edition.
Nintendo's doing DLC right. Literally, it's like look
Right.
at the Mario Kart 8 DLC, $12 for like 8 tracks and like a bunch of card upgrades. And you have one that came out. Let's see, what the game came out in I think May, right? Then the first DLC came out late November, and the next one's just barely coming out in March.
Mhm.
So
Right, but
it's a big wait period. I already bought the DLC, played it a while. I was like, I'm ready to work with the tracks.
well,
So I just put it in this case and just leave it there.
if you're going to space out the release, you need to keep people informed of, by the way, this is when it's coming.
I also think for a game like Mario Kart, because I'm assuming you're playing Mario Kart online.
No, I'm not playing
Oh, you're
it
not?
online.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
'Cause there is-
I occasionally touch it online, but
It doesn't matter if you play it online
it
or
doesn't
not.
really
Like,
matter.
Yeah.
if DLC comes out a year later, I'll pop it in. It's not like I'm lost in the middle of
I guess
Right,
I
well,
find it easier to
with
come
that-
back to
with that type-
multiplayer DLC than single player.
Well, no, just that type of game. I mean, it's a kart racing. It's a racing game. It's not like it's not like you lost. You're like, where the hell am I in the story?
It's like, I just like it for the tracks are very colorful, very fluid. And like the drifting mechanics change a lot, especially from the N64, GameCube, the DS ones, and like.
Do they still have Rainbow Road?
Yes,
Yes.
there's 2. There's 3 actually. There's 3
Oh
Rainbow
my
Roads in
God.
that game.
3 different
Do you
Rainbow
fall off the
Roads.
cliff in every single one of them?
The first one is the actual Rainbow Road for the game, the new one.
Nice.
Then there's the retro one from the N64, and there's also they added with the DLC they added the one from the SNES again.
That's the one that gives me nightmares.
That one's still not fun.
Yeah,
It's basically no walls and you just jump around. It's like, I'm actually sick of this Rainbow Road because it was a Mario Kart 7. Why Nintendo?
Mhm.
Why could? And also, I was really pissed when the Mario Kart 8 N64 Rainbow Road was one map. I want to go around the whole thing again. I want that month of time to spend on the track. It's like, it just blew me away. It blew me away when I was playing on N64. It's like, this track's taking forever, by the way. But I'm liking it.
Yeah.
I like to see the fireworks, all the art is gorgeous, and the music was amazing.
One
Also
of
the shortcut.
okay, so Nintendo does first party games
Just
spectacularly well, but the problem is,
their third parties.
well, third parties, they've left because
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is the Wii U is the equivalent of the 360 and the PlayStation 3. Because they finally decided with, oh, hey, HD. The other thing is, the vast majority of the third-party developers do not want to have to redesign their entire game around the control scheme of the Wii or the Wii U,
The Wii moved.
So
or
they're like
the
the
Wii
Internet
Pad.
Explorer
They can just
consoles.
use the Pro Controller as an example.
Right, but not everyone's going to have a Pro controller. That's the biggest issue when you try to get innovative. Either you have a console with innovative controls.
Yeah, I hate my gamepad. I don't use it.
I am really sad that they only allow one gamepad. They were, what I envisioned was Zelda, 4 swords, 4 gamepads attached to the Wii U. That would have been awesome.
But the problem is how much is a gamepad?
I think it's like $100.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now you gotta pay another $300
I'll
for
do
4
it.
gamepads?
Oh, and then there's what happened with the whole extended battery you could buy from Japan just disappearing off the market. I was lucky enough to grab one like a week before they just disappeared from the world.
It's because it's radioactive.
It gets 8
Just
hours.
make sure you don't leave the pad in your lap.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions?
Also,
Yes, sir.
Kickstarter, if you go on there and look through all the different games, there's so many of these independent developers that you were mentioning earlier that want to produce stuff for the Wii U and the 3DS. And they're just trying to reach stretch goals. And like, come on, man, if we can get a little more, we can put it on there. They
Right.
believe in it, but no one else does.
Right.
And that's sort of
Right.
sad.
I mean, and the fact of the matter is that, as you can see, they're in the stretch goals. They're not the
Yeah.
main ones because that's.
There's a few of them that, like, their main goal is to bring it there. I followed one, like, Hex Heroes.
Uh-huh.
It was sponsored on Game Grumps, and I'm like, I'm going to see what this is about. They're sponsoring it. It's like a little indie board game where you move around pieces and you can build villages by connecting people to the stuff. And I'm like, it looks kind of bland, but then I watched an actual tech demo of it, and then I watched the alpha and the beta demo, and I'm like, you know what, I'm actually going to do this. And I threw my money down on it. And they're actually pumping out regular updates on things. And
Oh, that's the other thing.
yeah.
Love the updates. don't have me fund your project and then 4 months later go, oh hey, by the way.
Oh yeah, we haven't sent you an update in a while. Do you want to know what we're doing? Absolutely nothing.
And of course, you know, the one risk, and Kickstarter's got really much better after this, but there was a digital game out there that raised $70,000. The developer disappeared with all that money. I don't know. They've now got like some safety stuff in place.
So they kind of hold them to that somehow?
Yeah, they're now making. I mean, you've got to sign like a ton of like disclaimers and waivers stating that if we cannot create the game, even if it's successfully funded, we have to return all money, even if you've run through almost all of it. You still have to return it.
Nice.
Wow. That's a big risk.
It is a big risk.
Which is why you're seeing less of the crazy games. The game that the developer disappeared on, it was a game that basically taught you how to code in a gaming way, which is a very ambitious project. And for $70,000, there's no way that could have happened. Once upon a time, real quick, I was a developer. I helped develop mobile games before smartphones were a thing. My claim to fame is MLB 08. I'm going to be honest with you, I do not like baseball. So it's really weird that my claim to fame is a baseball game. I'm not a financial guru, but I do understand. I can kind of gauge scope. So if you're saying $70,000 for something that's going to teach you how to program, that's insane. And it is crazy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the 7 o'clock hour. I know we don't have panels after us, but I know that some people probably want to get food.
Food is good.
If you have any questions or comments for us, we'll stick around for a little bit. If you're here tomorrow, we have a fan table in the vendor hall. We're right next to Vitamin Geek.
Yep.
And the what's that? The Jurassic Park cart that has "Please don't touch." You can find it.
We're close to the TARDIS also.
Yeah, we're also within a stone's throw of the TARDIS, if you know where the TARDIS is.
Why do they have it there if you can't sit in it?
In what? The
It's
Jeep?
big-
Jurassic Park Jeep.
So it's kind of funny you ask. So every time, so they're in the back, there's actually this like fender, and every time somebody sits in it, it falls off.
The
So
thing
they
is,
don't want somebody breaking it.
the thing is, there was a there was some kind of drunken race last night, and they wanted to use that in the race. They're I guess like modders and like costume creators.
Sure.
And so this is just one of the projects, and they wanted to show off the project. Of course, that you'll see one of the guys who helped make it. He'll drive the thing around the vendor hall.
Okay, so it can drive around the vendor hall. You
Oh, yeah,
just
they'll
gotta
drive,
be careful
yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
They can-
But it just him and his buddy are going to drive.
Then you have the
So anyways, thank you for coming. We are Altered Confusion. Check us out at alteredconfusion.com. We have a YouTube channel. We do a live Twitch broadcast every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, we're sticking around for a little bit. If you want to check us out tomorrow, we're at the fan table. We have another panel here at noon called "So You Finished Making Your Indie Game and You Think You're Done." It's basically just a walkthrough of if you've ever made an indie game or you're thinking about making an indie game, some of the pitfalls and some of the advice to try to make your game as successful as possible.
And you said your website reviews indie games?
Yes, sir.
Yep.